Hi, I'm Tim Schaff. I'm the Director of Golf for SyberVision Golf Schools. Let's talk about the grip. The purpose of the grip is to hold the club in a way that you can control it while minimizing tension so that you can make the most natural and athletic swing possible. The way you control tension is by having your hands in good position so that you don't need to use a lot of muscular force to keep control of the club. Let's start with the left hand. First of all, put the grip of the club across your hand so that it rests in the crook of your forefinger and is securely underneath the heel of the hand. The heel of the hand is the fleshy part right here. We're not talking about the thumb or down near the fingers, but this point right here. When you've done that, you can support the club easily, as I'm doing now. Simply close the rest of your fingers on the shaft and put your left hand over the top so that your thumb goes down the middle or slightly down the right side of the shaft. When you look at the back of your hand, you'll be able to see 2 or 3 knuckles, and that depends a little bit on the individual. Now with the right hand, it's a little different. The grip is almost entirely in the fingers. First of all, I'm going to overlap my little finger over the forefinger, but whether I overlap or interlock is really immaterial. It's purely a question of feel. Do one or the other. I would discourage using a 10-finger grip. After I've overlapped my little finger over the forefinger of the left hand, I'm going to let the grip rest down in the fingers, and you can see my fingers on either side of the shaft. When I close my right thumb over my left thumb, I do the important move, which is to close the V formed by the thumb and the forefinger so that there is a line down to these first knuckles. After that, my left thumb does go down the left side of the shaft, and my forefinger does go down the right side of the shaft, and there is a V. But what you do not want to do is to have that V open like this. You want it to be closed down to these knuckles. There's a very important reason for that. As you get to the top of your swing, there's a tremendous amount of momentum that the club head generates. The club head is still trying to go that way while you're beginning to swing downward. When you have the 2 fingers together, when you have the 2 knuckles together, a bridge is formed that supports the club at the top of the swing. If instead of that, you allow a gap to form so that the V remains open, when you get to the top of the swing, the club is going to want to drop in that gap. And 2 things will happen. First of all, you'll lose control of the club. Second, you're likely to grab very tightly with your right hand in an attempt to regain control, which you won't be able to do. When you grip the club correctly, therefore, it's not going to move very much, and you're going to be able to grip very lightly. But where is the pressure in your hands? Well, in the left hand, it's primarily in the last 3 fingers and in the heel of the palm. In the right hand, it's in the middle 2 fingers, and there is also some pressure between the 2 knuckles at the top of the V, this knuckle and this knuckle. And there's a little pressure in the top of the right forefinger. Where there is never any pressure is in the tips of the right thumb and the right forefinger. That's very destructive. Now do the following exercise. Take the correct grip and hold the club out in front of you. Now grip as tightly as you can with the thumb and forefingers of both hands. And when you do that, you're going to feel a little bit of tension on the outsides of your arms. You don't want that in the golf swing. Now relax the thumb and the forefinger and grip as tightly as you can with the fingers that you should have the pressure in, the last 3 of the left hand and the middle 2 of the right hand. And you'll feel a little pressure on the insides of your arms. You'd like to have a little of that. Bear in mind that when you're actually swinging a golf club, you don't want to have as much pressure as you can have in your fingers. In fact, you want the pressure to be very, very light. Most golfers don't realize just how lightly they really should grip it, but most golfers can throw a ball well. And you know how much pressure you have on a ball in your hand. You hold a ball very lightly so that you can have good flexibility with your hands and arms, good feel, and the ball doesn't fall out. A good drill is to take your normal grip and then to remove all of your hands except the thumb and the forefinger of the right hand and the thumb and the forefinger of the left hand. You may also want to brace the club with one of the middle fingers of either your right or your left hand. When you do this, the club is going to be very, very light in your hands. And when you swing back and forth, you're going to be able to feel the true swinging feeling of a golf club. You're going to be able to feel the club doing the work. You're going to be able to feel your body swinging along with the club. You're going to be able to feel tempo, and most of all, you're going to feel the absence of over-control that most golfers use. Now, when you actually take your grip, of course, you're going to have all your fingers on the club, and in fact, where the least pressure is going to be in the thumb and the forefinger. But the drill will help you get the overall feeling of lightness that is so vital to your grip. Remember, the purpose of the grip is to be able to hold the club in a fashion in which you can control it, while at the same time having very, very little tension in your hands. Let's review the stance. The stance accomplishes three things. First of all, it allows the golfer to line himself up at the target. I have a stake on the ground here which is pointing down my line of flight. If I have my feet so that they are equidistant from this stake, I have a square stance. When my right foot is pulled back and my right shoulder and my right hip are pulled back, I am in a closed stance. If my left foot, hip, and shoulder are pulled back, I have an open stance. I'd like you to try to use a square stance. The next thing that we need to pay attention to is the alignment of the club face. And in order to hit the ball accurately to the target, I need to have not only my feet lined up correctly, but also the club face. I'm going to use the lines on the club face, the scoring lines, and the bottom edge to aim. These must be perpendicular to the line towards my target, like this. The stance also puts us in position to be in balance. Try to have your feet roughly shoulder width apart. Feel that your weight is on the insides of your feet and slightly towards the balls of your feet. When you bend your knees, which you will do slightly, feel that the tension, the pressure on the inside, is on the insides of your legs. The next thing the stance does is sets up your posture. Rich, take this golf club. Rich is now going to demonstrate a drill that we use in order to teach the correct posture. Rich will move over next to the golf ball. Now, Rich holds the club at waist height and parallel to the ground. Then he's going to bend over from his waist, keeping everything from the club head through his hands, shoulders, and hips in the same position relative to one another. As he tilts his shoulders forward, his hips will move slightly backward so that his weight stays in the same proportion as it was before. Notice how when he gets the club head about a foot above the ball, his legs are almost stiff. He'll now crack his knees slightly and then let the club drop down to the ground. He's now positioned himself so that the ball is out in front of his chest in the same way that it would have been had he stood straight up and been hitting a ball that was at waist height. This is going to allow him to turn around his spine, to wind up the big muscles of his shoulders and his hips, and then unwind them. It'll make it very easy for him to keep the club in plane. The stance is very important because it sets your whole body up to move in a correct way, in an athletic way for your golf swing. Hi Jack, let's go over what we've worked on here this week in the school. First of all, take your grip. Okay, now that's a pretty good position right there. Your stance also was pretty good. There was two things though that we had to pay attention to. Go ahead and take your stance. Your posture is good. You have a tendency from time to time to get a little bit far from the ball. And you can see when your hands get too far from your body that that's taken place. Right now you're in a pretty good position. The other thing that you need to pay attention to in your stance that we've worked on this week is to make sure that your head is back behind the ball as it is now. At the beginning of the week you were much more over like this, and that throws your spine angle off. So you have your head back here. Now Mike Dunaway is a good example of that. Now in your backswing, the most important thing for you to do was to be able to keep your spine centered, so that as you swung back, your head remained in the same position as it did at the start. With your old swing, you began to lean in towards the target as you swung back. Now go ahead and swing, take your backswing. Okay, now here you need to be sure that your head still remains behind the ball a little bit here. Okay? Patty Sheen's a really good example of that, and her extension of her arm here is also a good thing to pay attention to. Now, there was one other area that we worked on in your backswing, and that was to make sure that your knees stayed a little more stable than before. Your right knee used to come in tremendously, and your left knee would bow out here. So we put a little pressure on the inside of this leg, kept this knee from coming back too much, and now you have a much more stable position at the top of the swing. All right, now swing right the way back to the top of your swing. Go all the way to the top of your backswing. Okay, that's good. Now swing through. Now, another area that we worked on was to make sure that this toe eventually came up so that your weight had transferred right the way through, and so that your entire thigh had turned around. Now, for you, the release drill was also a very important thing, and you did it quite well. Show us the release drill. Take your backswing. Now, the important thing was to remember not to swing back further than this, to have your right hand in this position. As you come through, you are going to let your forearms turn over, and you're going to make sure that this elbow stays very close to your body. Now you're in a position where your hands are ahead of the ball, your head remains back, and you can hit the ball solidly. As you swing through, your forearms turn over like this, and then the points that we had to be very careful with were to make sure that your shoulder was down enough and that your knee came in a little bit. Now, you did this drill quite well in the class, and I think this is going to be a very important thing for you to work on as you go along. In addition, the one-handed drills helped you. Stepping into the ball helped you. Okay, Jack, go ahead and hit a couple more shots. That's good, Jack. Well, we enjoyed having you here at the school. Hope you learned something. Well, we hope you enjoyed your SyberVision Golf School here in sunny La Quinta in Palm Springs. Remember, this videotape is designed to help you keep your learning process on track for the next few months. In addition, refer to your notebook. You should have taken a lot of notes. Keep practicing, and your golf game is going to improve. Thanks for coming. Bye.